The Zyker Empire sat at the heart of the galaxy, a massive group of planets ruled by cold, sharp-minded aliens with scales like polished metal. They believed they were the strongest, the smartest, and the most powerful beings in all the stars. Nobody could challenge them, or so they thought. To prove their strength, they decided to do something terrible. In the wide, shining central square of their capital planet, Varkes, they hung 10 humans from tall, black poles under the purple sky. They didn't give the humans a chance to speak. They didn't ask for their names or listen to their stories. They wanted everyone to see this act and feel afraid. The Zyker thought fear would keep everyone quiet, from the smallest moon to the biggest star system. But they made a big mistake. The galaxy wasn't just watching, it was paying close attention. And Earth, far away but fierce, was already hearing the news. The central square of Varkes was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. It was made of smooth, glowing stones that sparkled under the 3 suns of the planet. Giant statues of Zyker heroes stood all around, their eyes carved to look down on anyone who walked there. On that day, crowds of Zyker citizens gathered, their scales clicking as they moved. They whispered to each other, curious but not surprised. The Zyker leaders had called everyone to watch. They wanted to send a message. Humans were weak, unimportant, and easy to crush. The 10 humans stood in chains, their faces calm but tired. Some had dirt on their clothes from being dragged across the planet. Others had cuts and bruises, but they held their heads high. The Zyker guards, tall and covered in armor, pushed them forward. No one spoke. No one explained why this was happening. The silence was heavy, like a storm waiting to break. The Zyker Emperor Valther stood on a high platform above the square. His robes were bright red and his eyes glowed like fire. He raised one clawed hand and the crowd went quiet. "These creatures," he said, his voice booming through the air, "are nothing. They come from a small, dirty planet called Earth. They think they can walk among us, trade with us, live with us, but they are wrong. Today we show the galaxy who rules." The crowd cheered, their voices like a wave crashing. They didn't know the humans. They didn't care. To them, this was just a show, a way to feel strong. But the humans weren't just random people. Each one had a life, a family, a story, and those stories were about to change everything. The first human was a young woman named Leela. She had been a teacher on a small colony world, helping kids learn about stars and math. She was kind, always smiling even when things were hard. The Zyker had taken her because she helped a Zyker child who was lost in a market. Instead of thanking her, they called her a troublemaker. The second human was an old man named Tom, a farmer who grew food on a dusty planet. He had strong hands and a quiet voice. He was taken because he shared his crops with a Zyker village during a storm. The others were just as ordinary, just as brave. There was a pilot, a cook, a builder, a doctor, people who lived simple lives but cared deeply for others. The Zyker didn't know this. They didn't bother to learn. They thought humans were all the same, weak and easy to forget. As the suns climbed higher, the Zyker guards tied ropes around the humans' necks. The crowd grew louder, shouting and clapping. Some threw stones, small ones that bounced off the ground. The humans stood still, their eyes looking out at the stars above. Leela whispered something to Tom and he nodded. They weren't afraid, not the way the Zyker wanted them to be. They knew something the Empire didn't. Earth wasn't just a small, dirty planet. It was a place of fire and strength, a place where people didn't give up. The ropes tightened and the crowd roared. The Zyker thought this was the end. They thought this would make everyone scared of them forever. But they were wrong. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Far across the galaxy, on a green and blue planet called Earth, people were already hearing about what happened. Ships carried the news faster than light, jumping from star to star. Traders whispered it in busy ports. Pilots shared it over crackling radios. On Earth, in small towns and big cities, people stopped what they were doing. They listened to the story of the 10 humans hung in a faraway square for no reason at all. Mothers hugged their children. Workers put down their tools. Soldiers checked their ships. The news spread like a spark in dry grass, growing hotter and brighter every minute. Earth wasn't loud about it. They didn't shout or make big speeches. But they were listening and they were angry. The Zyker didn't understand humans. They thought humans were soft, like clay you could crush in your hand. They didn't know that humans were more like water, calm one moment, a raging flood the next. The Empire had built its power on fear, on making others feel small. They had conquered planets, taken riches, and built their shining cities. But they didn't know Earth. They didn't know that humans didn't bow to fear. They didn't know that hurting 10 humans would wake up billions more. The galaxy was watching, yes, but not the way the Zyker wanted. Other planets, other species were starting to talk. Why did they do this? They asked. What will Earth do now? The questions grew louder, like a drumbeat across the stars. On Varkis, the square emptied after the terrible act. The Zyker citizens went back to their homes, their scales gleaming under the suns. They thought the show was over. The guards cleaned the square and the emperor returned to his palace, smiling. He believed he had won. He believed the galaxy would see the Zyker as unstoppable. But he didn't know about the messages flying through space. He didn't know about the people on Earth, sitting in quiet rooms making plans. He didn't know about the scientist who loved Lila like a sister, or the commander who called Tom his friend. He didn't know that the silence he created wasn't the end of the story. The Zyker had machines that watched the stars, looking for ships or signals. They saw nothing unusual that day. No human fleets appeared. No angry messages came. The Empire felt safe, strong, untouchable. But they didn't see the small things. A single human ship, tiny and fast, slipped past their sensors. A coded signal, hidden in the noise of space, reached a distant colony. A group of engineers on Earth started working late into the night, their tools sparking in the dark. The Zyker thought they had shown their power. They thought they had scared everyone. But they had only lit a fire, and that fire was growing. The humans who died in the square weren't just names or faces. They were part of something bigger. Leela had taught children to dream of the stars. Tom had fed hungry people even when he had little himself. The pilot had saved lives in storms. The cook had shared meals with strangers. The builder had made homes for those who had none. The doctor had healed the sick, no matter who they were. Each one had touched lives, not just on Earth but across the galaxy. The Zyker thought they could erase those lives with ropes and silence. They thought they could make the galaxy forget. But the galaxy doesn't forget kindness, and Earth doesn't forgive cruelty. As the sun set on Varkis, the square was quiet again. The glowing stones dimmed and the statues stood like silent guards. The Zyker went on with their lives, unaware of the storm coming. They didn't know that Earth was already moving. They didn't know that the 10 humans they tried to break were the spark that would light a fire. The galaxy was watching, and it wasn't afraid. It was waiting, waiting for Earth to answer, waiting for the humans to show what they were really made of. The Zyker thought they had won. They thought they had shown their strength, but they had only shown their mistake, and Earth was ready to make them pay. The 10 humans the Zyker Empire hung in their capital square weren't just random people. Each one had a life filled with love, dreams, and connections. They had families, friends, and people who looked up to them. Some of those people were powerful, with skills and strength that could shake the stars. The Zyker thought they could erase these humans and no one would care. But they were wrong. They didn't just hurt strangers. They hurt the wrong people, and those people's loved ones were ready to fight back. The first human was Layla, a young woman with bright eyes and a warm smile. She was a teacher on a small colony planet called New Haven, a dusty place with red soil and 2 moons. Leela taught kids how to read, count, and dream about the stars. She made learning fun, telling stories about faraway worlds while pointing at the sky. Her students loved her because she listened to them, even when they were scared or sad. Leela had a younger sister named Mara, a brilliant scientist who built machines that could talk to distant planets. Mara was quiet but fierce, and she loved Leela more than anyone. When Mara heard what the Zyker did, her heart broke, but her mind started working. She wasn't just sad, she was ready to make things right. The second human was Tom, an old man with rough hands and a kind heart. He was a farmer on a dry planet called Dust Bowl, where growing food was hard. Tom knew how to make plants grow in tough places. He shared his crops with everyone, even strangers who came hungry. During a big storm, he gave food to a Zyker village nearby, even though they didn't trust humans. That kindness got him noticed, and the Zyker took him away. Tom had a best friend, a commander named Elena, who led a fleet of Earth's fastest ships. Elena was strong and brave, with a voice that could make soldiers stand tall. She called Tom her family, and when she learned he was gone, her eyes turned hard. She wasn't going to let the Zyker get away with this. Another human was Javi, a pilot with a quick laugh and a love for flying. He flew small ships through dangerous places, dodging asteroids and storms to deliver medicine or supplies. Javi never said no to someone in need, even if it meant risking his life. He once saved a whole colony by flying through a meteor shower to bring food. Javi's best friend was Kai, a hacker who could break into any computer system. Kai was young, with messy hair and a mind that worked like lightning. They grew up together, playing games and dreaming of adventure. When Kai heard about Javi, their fingers started typing. They were ready to make the Zyker's machines stop working. Then there was Aisha, a cook who made meals that brought people together. She ran a small kitchen on a busy space station called Starbound, where traders and travelers stopped. Aisha's food was simple but so good that people came from faraway planets just to eat her soup or bread. She always gave extra to those who couldn't pay. Aisha had a daughter, Zara, who was a builder. Zara made homes and schools on new planets, using her tools to create safe places for families. Zara was strong and never gave up, even when work was hard. When she heard about her mom, Zara put down her hammer. She wasn't just going to build things now, she was going to fight. Another human was Sam, a doctor who traveled to sick planets. Sam carried a bag full of tools and medicine, helping anyone who needed it, human or not. He once stayed awake for 3 days to save a village from a bad sickness. Sam was quiet but kind, always listening to his patients. His brother, Leo, was a leader on Earth, someone who made big plans to keep people safe. Leo was good at talking, bringing people together to solve problems. When Leo got the news about Sam, he stopped talking and started planning. He wasn't going to let his brother's kindness be forgotten. There was also May, a builder like Zara but different. May made bridges and roads connecting faraway places so people could visit each other. She loved seeing kids run across her bridges, laughing. May was strong with a big smile that made everyone feel safe. Her best friend was Rico, an engineer who fixed ships and machines. Rico could take a broken engine and make it sing again. When Rico heard about May, their tools stopped moving. They started thinking about how to break the Zyker's machines instead of fixing things. Another human was Carlos, a musician who played songs that made people feel alive. He traveled across planets with his guitar, singing about hope and love. His music brought strangers together, making them dance or cry. Carlos had a sister, Sophia, who was a spy. Sophia worked in secret, sneaking into dangerous places to learn things no one else could. She was fast and clever, always one step ahead. When Sophia heard about Carlos, her heart hurt, but her mind got sharp. She was ready to sneak into the Zyker's world and find their secrets. Then there was Tara, a librarian who kept stories safe. She worked on a quiet planet called Willow in a big building full of books and screens. Tara helped people find answers, whether they were kids or old travelers. She believed stories could change the world. Tara's friend was Nia, a pilot like Javi but bigger, flying huge cargo ships full of supplies. Nia was loud and brave, never backing down from a challenge. When Nia heard about Tara, she stopped her ship and made a promise. She was going to fly for her friend now. Another human was Raj, a mechanic who fixed anything broken. He worked on a mining planet, keeping drills and robots running. Raj was patient, always finding a way to make things work. He once fixed a Zyker machine for free, just to help. Raj had a cousin, Amara, who was a scientist like Mara but studied stars. Amara could predict where planets would move or when storms would hit. When Amara heard about Raj, she looked at the stars and started planning. She wasn't going to let the Zyker hurt anyone else. The last human was Emma, a gardener who grew flowers and trees on a cold planet called Frost. Her gardens made people smile, even in the snow. Emma was gentle but strong, never giving up on her plants. Her brother Lucas was a soldier who protected Earth's colonies. Lucas was tall and serious, always ready to keep people safe. When Lucas heard about Emma, he put on his armor. He wasn't just a soldier now, he was fighting for his sister. Each of these humans was special, not because they were rich or famous, but because they cared. They helped others, shared what they had, and made the galaxy better. The Zyker didn't know this. They didn't ask who these people were. They thought humans were weak, easy to forget, but they were wrong. Leela had Mara, the scientist. Tom had Alina, the commander. Javi had Kai, the hacker. Aisha had Zara, the builder. Sam had Leo, the leader. May had Rico, the engineer. Carlos had Sophia, the spy. Tara had Nia, the pilot. Raj had Amara, the scientist. Emma had Lucas, the soldier. These weren't just random people. They were connected to others who were strong, smart, and ready to act. The Zyker thought they could scare the galaxy by hurting these 10 humans. They thought no one would care. But they didn't understand how humans work. When you hurt one human, you hurt everyone who loves them. And those people, Mara, Elena, Kai, Zara, Leo, Rico, Sophia, Nia, Amara, Lucas, weren't going to stay quiet. They were powerful, not because they had big ships or loud voices, but because they loved someone who was gone. That love made them dangerous. The Zyker had no idea what they had started. On Earth, the news about the 10 humans spread fast. People talked in homes, schools, and markets. They said the names Leela, Tom, Javi, Aisha, Sam, May, Carlos, Tara, Raj, Emma over and over so no one would forget. The galaxy heard those names too. Other planets, other species started asking questions. Why did the Zyker do this? Who were these humans? The answers came back one story at a time. A teacher, a farmer, a pilot, a cook, a doctor, a builder, a musician, a librarian, a mechanic, a gardener. Each story made the galaxy see humans differently. They weren't weak. They were kind, brave, and loved. The Zyker Empire thought they had shown their strength. They thought they had made humans look small, but they had done the opposite. By hurting these 10 people, they showed the galaxy what humans were really like, and they made enemies of the people who loved them. Mara was already building something new. Elena was checking her ships. Kai was typing fast. Zara was planning. Leo was gathering people. Rico was thinking. Sophia was sneaking. Nia was flying. Amara was watching the stars. Lucas was marching. The Zyker didn't just hurt 10 humans, they woke up a planet. And that planet was ready to answer. The Zyker Empire thought they had won. They believed hanging 10 humans in their capital square would make everyone afraid. But humans didn't respond with fear. They didn't send angry messages or make loud promises. Instead, they started acting, quietly, carefully, and with purpose. Small things began to go wrong for the Zyker, things they didn't notice at first. A ship vanished in the far reaches of space. A mining station stopped working without a sound. No guns were fired, no warnings were given. The Zyker laughed when they heard the news, thinking it was just bad luck. But they were wrong. Something had started and it was growing. In the outer systems, far from the bright lights of Varkes, a Zyker cargo ship called the Iron Claw sailed through a quiet part of space. It carried food and metal to a Zyker colony. The crew, with their shiny scales and sharp claws, felt safe. Their ship was big, with strong shields and fast engines. But one night, as the stars glowed outside, the Iron Claw stopped moving. The lights flickered, then went dark. The engines hummed, then fell silent. The crew checked their screens, but nothing worked. No alarms rang. No enemy ships appeared. The Iron Claw just floated like a toy left in a pond. By morning, it was gone. No pieces were found, no signals sent. The Zyker thought it was an accident, maybe a broken engine. They didn't know humans were behind it. On a rocky planet called Zorath, the Zyker ran a huge mining station. It dug deep into the ground, pulling out shiny stones used to power their ships. Hundreds of workers lived there, running machines day and night. One morning the station went quiet. The drills stopped spinning. The lights turned off. The workers, confused, checked the power systems, but everything was dead. No explosions, no attacks, just silence. The Zyker sent a team to fix it, but when they arrived, the station was empty. The stones were gone, the machines were still, and the workers had left. The Zyker leaders scratched their heads, thinking it was a glitch. They didn't see the truth. Humans had been there. These small acts were the first steps of human revenge. They weren't loud or flashy. No one saw human ships or heard human voices. But across the galaxy, things kept going wrong for the Zyker. A supply base on a cold moon lost its heat, leaving soldiers shivering. A communication tower on a desert planet stopped sending messages, cutting off a Zyker fleet. Each time, the Zyker thought it was nothing, just bad machines or lazy workers. They laughed, saying humans were too weak to fight back. But the people behind these acts weren't weak. They were smart, patient, and angry. Mara, the scientist who lost her sister Layla, was one of the first to act. She worked in a lab on Earth, building machines that could think and move. When she heard about Leela, she didn't cry or shout. She got to work. Mara built a tiny device, smaller than a coin, that could sneak into Zyker systems and make them stop. She gave it to a pilot friend who flew to the Iron Claw and slipped the device inside. It shut the ship down like turning off a light. Mara didn't tell anyone what she did. She just kept building more devices, her hands steady but her heart burning. Kai, the hacker who loved Javi the pilot, was another quiet fighter. Kai sat in a small room on a space station, surrounded by screens. Their fingers danced across keys, sending invisible signals through space. Kai broke into the mining station's computers on Zorath, turning everything off with a few clicks. They made the systems look broken, so no one suspected a human was behind it. Kai worked fast, never sleeping, thinking of Javi's laugh. They didn't want fame or thanks. They wanted the Zyker to feel confused, just like Kai felt without their friend. Elena, the commander who called Tom the farmer her family, was also moving. She led a small team of Earth ships, fast and hard to see. They flew to the cold moon and cut the power to the Zyker base. Her team didn't fight. They slipped in, changed the wires, and left before anyone noticed. Elena's face was calm, but her eyes were sharp. She thought of Tom sharing his food with strangers. She wasn't going to let the Zyker forget him. Her ships moved to the next target, silent as shadows. These humans, Mara, Kai, Elena, and others, worked alone or in small groups. They didn't meet in big rooms or make grand plans. They just did what they could where they were. Zara, the builder who lost her mom Aisha, used her skills to jam Zyker machines. She knew how to make things, so she knew how to break them too. She snuck onto a Zyker factory planet and changed the settings on their robots, making them stop. Rico, the engineer who loved May, fixed a human ship to fly faster, then used it to drop Mara's devices on Zyker bases. Sophia, the spy who lost her brother Carlos, stole Zyker maps, showing humans where to strike next. Each act was small, like a pebble dropped in water, but together the ripples grew. The Zyker started to notice. On Varkes in the Emperor's palace, reports piled up. A ship gone, a station dark, a base cold. The Emperor Valther waved his claw and laughed. "These are nothing," he said. "Humans are ants, they can't hurt us." His advisors nodded, their scales clicking. They didn't want to look weak, but some, in quiet corners, started to wonder, why did these things keep happening? Was it really just luck? Across the galaxy, other species watched too. The Taurians, a race of tall, feathered beings, heard about the missing Zyker ship. They whispered in their markets, curious. The Glevons, small creatures with big eyes, talked about the dark mining station. They wondered if humans were doing this. No one knew for sure because humans didn't brag. They didn't send messages saying, "We did this." They just kept moving, striking, and vanishing. This made the Zykers' laughter sound hollow. If humans were so weak, why were things going wrong? On Earth, people heard about these small acts. In cities and towns, they shared stories. A ship disappeared, maybe it was us. A station stopped, maybe we did that. They didn't know who was behind it, but they felt proud. Their planet wasn't sitting still. It was fighting back, not with big armies, but with clever tricks. Kids in schools drew pictures of ships vanishing in space. Workers in factories cheered when they heard about the cold Zyker base. The stories gave them hope, like a warm fire on a cold night. The humans behind these acts didn't talk much. Mara worked alone in her lab, her tools sparking. Kai's screens glowed in the dark, showing Zyker systems falling apart. Elena's ships moved through space, leaving no trace. They thought of the 10 humans: Layla, Tom, Javi, Aisha, Sam, May, Carlos, Tara, Raj, Emma. Each one had been kind, brave, and loved. Each one had been taken for no reason. That thought kept the humans going, even when they were tired or scared. The Zyker didn't see the pattern yet. They thought each problem was separate, a broken ship here, a dark station there. They sent repair teams, built new machines, and shouted about their strength, but the problems kept coming. A Zyker trade post lost its food supplies. A fuel station ran dry. A guard tower's lights went out. Each time, no one saw humans. No one heard them. The Zyker started to feel uneasy, like someone was watching them. These small acts were just the start. They were tests, ways for humans to learn how the Zyker worked. Mara's devices showed her which systems were weak. Kai's hacks taught them how Zyker computers talked. Elena's missions found gaps in Zyker defenses. Every move made humans stronger, smarter, ready for bigger things. The Zyker laughed, but their laughter was getting quieter. They didn't know what was coming. They didn't know that humans weren't just striking, they were planning. The galaxy felt the change. Other planets, other races started to talk more. The Taurians sent a message to Earth asking if they needed help. The Glevons stopped trading with the Zyker just in case. Even the Zyker's allies, like the Vren, a race of armored warriors, started asking questions. "What's wrong?" they said. "Why can't you fix your ships?" The Zyker didn't know how to answer. They thought they were untouchable. They thought humans were ants. But ants can carry heavy things. Ants can work together. And humans were more than ants. They were clever, brave, and full of heart. The small acts of revenge were like seeds planted in the ground. They were starting to grow, and soon they would become something the Zyker couldn't ignore. The Empire had hurt 10 humans, thinking it would break Earth. Instead, it woke them up. And now, the fight was beginning. The Zyker Empire was used to being in control. Their shiny ships sailed through space without trouble, and their tall cities glowed under the suns of Varkes. They thought no one could challenge them, especially not humans from a small planet called Earth. But things were starting to change. One Zyker general named Kalthar began to feel uneasy. He sat in his office, a wide room with walls covered in screens showing maps of stars and planets. Reports kept coming in, each one worse than the last. A ship gone, a station dark, a base quiet. At first, everyone laughed, saying it was just bad luck. But Kalthar saw something different. The problems weren't random. They followed a pattern like steps in a dance. Systems failed in perfect order. This wasn't chance. It was a plan. The humans weren't scared. They were getting ready. Kalthar was old for a Zyker, with scales that had faded from silver to gray. He had fought in wars and won battles across the galaxy. His eyes, sharp and yellow, missed nothing. He leaned over his desk, reading the latest report. A fuel station on a faraway moon had stopped working. No explosions, no fights, just silence. The workers there said the machines turned off by themselves. Calthar's claws tapped the desk, making a soft, clicking sound. He remembered the 10 humans the Empire had hung in the Capitol Square. Everyone thought that would make Earth weak and quiet. But now, Calthar wasn't so sure. He called his assistant, a young Zyker named Soren, and asked for every report from the last few weeks. He wanted to know everything. The reports piled up like leaves in a storm. Soren brought them in, his arms full of glowing tablets. Each one told a story of something going wrong. A cargo ship, the Iron Claw, had vanished in the outer systems. A mining station on Zorath went dark, its drills frozen. A supply base on a cold moon lost its heat. A communication tower stopped sending signals. Calthar read them all, his eyes narrowing. He noticed something strange. The problems didn't happen everywhere. They hit important places, ships that carried food, stations that dug up fuel, towers that kept the Empire talking. It was like someone knew exactly where to strike to make the Zyker stumble. Calthar stood and walked to a big screen showing a map of the galaxy. He marked the places where things went wrong. Red dots appeared one by one, forming a trail. It wasn't scattered. It was neat, like a path leading somewhere. He stepped back, his tail twitching. "This is no accident," he said to Soren. "Someone is doing this on purpose." Soren's scales clicked nervously. "But who?" he asked. Calthar didn't answer right away. He thought of Earth, that small blue planet the Zyker had laughed at. He thought of the humans, who they said were soft and weak. But weak things didn't make empires shake. In the Emperor's palace, far from Calthar's office, the mood was different. Emperor Valthar sat on his throne, his red robes shining under the lights. His advisors, all high-ranking Zyker with polished scales, stood around him. They talked about new ships and bigger cities as if nothing was wrong. When a messenger brought news of the fuel station, Valthar waved his claw. "Fix it," he said, his voice loud and sharp. "These are small problems. We are the Zyker. No one can stop us." The advisors nodded, their eyes bright. They didn't want to look scared. But Calthar's report, sent that morning, sat unread on a table. No one wanted to tell the Emperor the truth. Calthar kept working. He called other generals, asking what they knew. Most laughed, saying humans couldn't do this. "They're ants," one said. "They don't have ships or weapons." But another general, a quiet one named Zevra, agreed with Calthar. She had seen humans trade in Zyker markets, their eyes quick and clever. "They're not like us," Zevra said over a crackling call. "They don't fight loud, they think first." Calthar nodded, his claws gripping the tablet. He asked Zevra to watch her bases closely. If humans were behind this, they wouldn't stop. Back in his office, Calthar spread the reports across his desk. He looked for clues. The Iron Claw's crew had reported a flicker in their lights before the ship went dark. The mining station's computers showed strange codes before they shut down. The fuel station's workers found tiny devices, no bigger than a pebble, stuck to the machines. Calthar held one in his claw, turning it over. It was smooth, with no marks, but it felt wrong. He sent it to a Zyker scientist, asking what it was. The scientist called back, her voice shaking. "It's not ours," she said. "It's too small, too smart. It stopped the machines like a key turning off a lock." Calthar's stomach twisted. Humans had made this. The more Calthar learned, the more he worried. He visited a repair base where a Zyker ship had been towed after losing power. The engineers, their scales dull from long hours, showed him the engines. "They just stopped," one said. "No damage, no reason. It's like they chose to quit." Calthar walked around the ship, his boots loud on the metal floor. He saw no bullet holes, no burn marks. Whatever did this was invisible, like a ghost. He thought of the humans again. Could they really do this? He remembered the 10 in the square, their faces calm even as they faced death. They hadn't begged or cried. They had looked strong. Maybe Earth was stronger than the Zyker thought. Calthar sent a message to the Emperor asking for a meeting. He wrote carefully, saying the problems were growing and needed attention. He didn't mention humans, not yet. He knew Valthar would laugh or get angry, but Calthar couldn't shake the feeling that something big was coming. He walked to his window, looking at the stars. Varkes was quiet, its 3 suns setting in a purple sky. The city below sparkled, but Calthar felt cold. He had fought enemies before, loud ones with ships and guns. This was different. This enemy was quiet, smart, and patient. In the Zyker capital, life went on. Citizens shopped in markets, their scales clicking as they moved. Children played in glowing parks, chasing floating lights. No one talked about the missing ship or the dark station. The Emperor's speeches played on screens, promising strength and glory. But in quiet corners, some Zyker whispered. Traders who visited Earth said humans were clever, always building new things. Soldiers who guarded human colonies said they never gave up, even when outnumbered. These stories were small, like sparks, but they spread. Calthar met with his team, a group of trusted officers. He showed them the map with red dots. "Look at this," he said, his voice low. "These aren't mistakes. Someone is hitting us where it hurts." One officer, a young Zyker with bright scales, spoke up. "Could it be the Taurians? They have fast ships." Calthar shook his head. "Taurians are loud, they brag, this is quiet." Another officer suggested pirates, but Calthar disagreed. Pirates stole and ran. These attacks left nothing, no clues, no boasts. He paused, then said the word no one wanted to hear. "Humans." The room went silent. The officers looked at each other, their tails still. Calthar told them to watch everything. Check ships before they flew. Guard stations day and night. Test machines for strange devices. He didn't know how humans were doing this, but he knew they wouldn't stop. He thought of the 10 in the square again. Each one had someone who cared, scientists, commanders, hackers. Those people were out there, planning, moving. Calthar felt like he was playing a game, but he didn't know the rules. The galaxy was starting to notice too. The Taurians, with their tall feathers, sent a message to the Zyker, asking why their trade ships were late. The Glevons, small and big-eyed, stopped buying Zyker fuel. Even the Vren, the Zyker's allies, asked questions. "Why are your bases failing?" they said. Valthar sent back loud answers, promising to fix everything. But Calthar knew it wasn't that simple. He stayed in his office, reading reports, marking maps, thinking. The pattern was clear now. The humans were hitting weak spots, like a kid poking holes in a dam. Soon, the water would break through. Calthar finally got his meeting with the Emperor. He walked into the throne room, his boots loud on the stone floor. Valthar sat high, his eyes glowing. "What is this nonsense?" the Emperor asked. "You worry too much, Calthar." The general stood tall, holding his tablet. "It's not worry," he said. "It's a plan. Someone is attacking us, quietly but surely." He showed the map, the red dots bright. Valthar frowned, his claws tapping. "Humans," he said, laughing. "They're nothing." Calthar didn't laugh. "They're not nothing," he said. "They're coming." The Emperor waved him away, but his eyes weren't as bright as before. Calthar left the palace, his mind racing. He knew the humans were out there working in the dark. He didn't know their names or faces, but he felt their anger. The 10 humans in the square had started this. Their deaths had woken something up. Calthar looked at the stars again, wondering where the next strike would hit. The Zyker Empire was strong, but strength didn't matter if you couldn't see your enemy. The humans weren't scared. They were ready. And Calthar, for the first time, was afraid. Back on Earth, far from the Zyker Empire's shining cities, something important was happening. In a plain building on the edge of a small town, a group of people gathered in secret. There were no flags waving, no cameras flashing, no crowds cheering. Just a quiet room with a long table, a few chairs, and a map of the galaxy glowing on a screen. These weren't famous leaders or loud speakers. They were ordinary people who had lost someone they loved, sisters, brothers, friends. The Zyker had taken 10 humans and thought it would make Earth weak. But these people weren't here to cry or complain. They were here to plan. They were here to win. The room was simple, with gray walls and a single light hanging above. Outside, the wind blew softly and the stars sparkled in the night sky. Inside, the air felt heavy like before a big storm. The people sat close, their faces serious but strong. Mara, the scientist who lost her sister Layla, was there, her hands folded tightly. Elena, the commander who loved Tom like family, sat straight, her eyes sharp. Kai, the hacker who missed their friend Javi, tapped a small screen nervously. Zara, the builder who lost her mom Aisha, leaned forward, ready to act. Leo, the leader who lost his brother Sam, wrote notes on a tablet. Rico, the engineer who loved May, checked a tiny machine in their pocket. Sophia, the spy who lost her brother Carlos, stood by the door watching for trouble. Nia, the pilot who missed Tara, sat quietly, her hands steady. Amara, the scientist who lost her cousin Raj, studied the star map. Lucas, the soldier who lost his sister Emma, gripped his chair, ready to move. No one spoke at first. They didn't need to. They all knew why they were there. The Zyker had hurt their families, their hearts. The 10 humans, Leela, Tom, Javi, Aisha, Sam, May, Carlos, Tara, Raj, Emma, were gone, but their stories lived in this room. Each person carried a piece of that pain, but also a piece of strength. They weren't just sad, they were angry, and that anger was like a fire, burning bright but controlled. They didn't want to destroy the Zyker or start a big war. They wanted justice. They wanted the galaxy to know that hurting humans was a mistake. Mara broke the silence. "We've started," she said, her voice clear. "The ship, the station, the fuel base, they're feeling it." She meant the small attacks they'd already done. The Zyker's iron claw ship had vanished. The mining station on Zorath had gone dark. A fuel base had stopped working. These were just the beginning, like tapping a wall to find its weak spots. Everyone nodded. They knew Mara's tiny devices had shut down machines. They knew Kai's hacks had turned off computers. They knew Alina's ships had slipped in and out, leaving no trace. But those were small steps. Now they needed a bigger plan. The leader stood up. He was tall, with a calm voice that made people listen. "The Zyker think we're weak," he said. "They think we'll give up, but we're not like them. We don't fight with big armies or loud threats. We fight smart." He pointed to the star map on the screen. It showed the Zyker Empire, a huge web of planets and bases connected by trade routes. Red dots marked where humans had struck: the ship, the station, the base. They're starting to notice, Leo said, but they don't know it's us. Not yet, we keep it that way. Sophia the spy spoke next. She was small but quick, her eyes always moving. I've been to their worlds, she said. Their guards are lazy, their systems are old, they trust their machines too much. She pulled out a small chip stolen from a Zyker base. This controls their lights, their doors, their air. If we break it, they can't move. Everyone leaned closer. Sophia had snuck into a Zyker city, past guards and cameras to get that chip. She knew where the Empire was weak and she was ready to share. Kai raised their hand, their screen glowing. I can use that chip, they said. I've already hacked their mining station. I can get into their bigger systems, ships, cities, maybe even Varkis. Kai's voice was quiet but sure. They had spent nights breaking into Zyker computers, making them stop without anyone knowing. If we hit their main systems, they'll be stuck. No trade, no food, no power. The room buzzed with excitement. Kai's hacks could make the Zyker feel helpless, just like the humans felt when their loved ones were taken. Elena, the commander, tapped the table. We don't need to fight, she said. We just need to stop them. Her ships had already shut down a Zyker base by cutting its power. She knew how to move fast and quiet like a shadow. My team can hit their supply lines. No food, no fuel, they'll have to listen. Elena's eyes were hard, thinking of Tom, who shared his crops with strangers. She wanted the Zyker to feel that same kindness turned against them, not with guns but with strategy. Zara, the builder, nodded. I can help, she said. I know how their machines work. I can break them without breaking them. Zara had built homes and schools, but she also knew how to take things apart. She had jammed a Zyker factory's robots, making them freeze. If we stop their factories, they can't build new ships or weapons. They'll be too busy fixing things. Zara thought of her mom Aisha, who fed people with her cooking. She wanted to honor that by stopping the Zyker's greed. Rico, the engineer, held up a small device like Mara's but different. This can mess with their engines, they said. I've tested it on a human ship. It works. Rico had fixed ships for years, making them faster and stronger. Now they use that skill to slow the Zyker down. We drop these on their fleets and they can't fly. No fight, just stuck. Rico thought of May, who built bridges to connect people. They wanted to build a way to stop the Zyker, one engine at a time. Nia, the pilot, grinned. I can deliver those, she said. My ship is big, but it's fast. I can drop Rico's devices or Mara's gadgets anywhere. Nia flew huge cargo ships carrying supplies across the galaxy. She had flown through storms and battles, always steady. Now she wanted to fly for Tara, who kept stories safe in her library. Give me a map and I'll make sure the Zyker can't move. Nia's hands itched to hold her ship's controls, ready to soar. Amara, the scientist who studied stars, pointed to the map. I know where their planets are weak, she said. Some have only one power station. Others need one trade route. Hit those and they fall apart. Amara had lost her cousin Raj, the mechanic who fixed anything. She wanted to use her knowledge to fix this problem, not with tools but with plans. We don't need to hit everywhere, just the right spots. Her finger traced lines on the map, showing paths to Zyker worlds. Lucas, the soldier, spoke last. I'll protect us, he said. If they come for Earth, my team is ready. Lucas was strong, his armor always ready. He had guarded colonies from pirates and storms, always keeping people safe. Now he thought of his sister Emma, who grew flowers in the snow. He wanted to keep her memory alive by keeping Earth strong. We don't want war, he said, but if they fight, we'll win. His voice was steady, like a rock in a river. The room grew quiet again. Everyone looked at the map, the red dots glowing brighter. They weren't just a group of sad people. They were a team, each with a skill, each with a reason to fight. Mara's devices could stop machines. Kai's hacks could break systems. Alina's ships could strike fast. Zara could jam factories. Rico could slow engines. Sophia could find secrets. Nia could deliver anything. Amara could pick the best targets. Lucas could keep them safe. Together, they were stronger than any Zyker army. Leo spoke again. "We don't tell the world," he said. "No messages, no boasts. We stay quiet until it's done." Everyone agreed. If the Zyker knew humans were behind this, they'd send ships to Earth. The plan had to stay secret, like a seed buried in the ground. They would strike fast, hit hard, and vanish. The Zyker would feel the pain but not see the hands behind it. That was the human way, not loud but smart. They spent hours in that room, planning every step. Mara and Rico worked on new devices, sketching ideas on a tablet. Kai and Sophia shared notes, talking about Zyker computers and weak spots. Alina and Nia plotted paths for their ships, finding quiet routes through space. Amara marked targets on the map, circling bases and trade lines. Zara suggested ways to slow Zyker factories without breaking them. Lucas planned defenses, making sure Earth was ready if the Zyker came. They didn't argue or shout. They worked together like pieces of a puzzle fitting perfectly. Outside, the town slept under the stars. No one knew what was happening in that plain building. No one saw the map glowing or heard the quiet voices. But the galaxy would feel it soon. The Zyker had hurt 10 humans, thinking it would make Earth bow. Instead, it brought these people together. Leela, Tom, Javi, Aisha, Sam, May, Carlos, Tara, Raj, Emma. Their names were in every plan, every idea. They were gone, but they were the reason for this fight. The meeting ended as the sky turned pink with dawn. The group stood, their faces tired but strong. They didn't cheer or hug. They just nodded, knowing what to do. Mara would build more devices. Kai would hack deeper. Alina and Nia would fly. Zara and Rico would break machines. Sophia would sneak. Amara would guide. Lucas would guard. Leo would lead. They left the room one by one, slipping into the early light. No one saw them go. No one knew their plan, but it was ready and it was strong. Earth wasn't loud like the Zyker with their big ships and bright cities. Earth was quiet, steady like a river carving a path through stone. The Zyker thought they had won by hurting 10 humans. They thought Earth would stay silent. But in that plain room under the stars, a plan was born. It wasn't about war or destruction. It was about showing the galaxy that humans were strong, smart, and never alone. The Zyker would learn that soon, and they would wish they had never hurt those 10.